Thank you very much. In fact, Pierre, you did a very good introduction for what I'm going to present now. So I will be very quick on some of the slides, and hopefully we'll get some time back after that. So I'm going to speak about the rail cybersecurity, and I will skip. Okay, I will skip this. You can find me very easily on LinkedIn because I have a not very common name, so I'm sure you will find me if you are curious about my background. Why we are speaking about rail cybersecurity? This was not even a thing 10 or 15 years ago. It started around 8-9 years ago. The first cybersecurity requirements in tenders for the rail industry. Before, nobody was asking anything about the cybersecurity. Why? Because most of the systems were electromechanical systems. Trains were very isolated networks, so the threat was not perceived, and nothing had happened at the time, neither or almost nothing related to cyber on the rail space. So nobody was considering cybersecurity when designing rail systems. But this obviously started to change once this digitalization entered in the game. Once we start to have more and more digital systems inside of the trains, in the infrastructure side, and all this interconnectivity between those systems, then the risk started to be perceived, and we start, as Pierre said, very slowly, and we are in the process to bring cybersecurity into the sector. So it's still not a mature topic at all. We are doing baby steps because this mindset or this culture in rail to be very slow to adapt any innovation or any new topic into it. We have more digitalization. Which means we have a bigger attack surface. In the past, if we were dealing with electromechanical systems, the opportunities to attack the system were very low. But we are also having more and more automation, and the best example is the fact that we can find driverless trains, right? So it's everything automated. It can be from no automated at all to full automated train. So on one hand, we have bigger attack surface. It's easier to attack the system because you have those additional interconnectivity and networks. The potential impact is also bigger because if you have a driver with an emergency brake in the train, worst case you can always stop the train. But if there is no driver anymore in the train and everything is digital, the potential impact of a cyber attack it can be much higher. So we have more likelihood to something to happen and a potential bigger impact. So in the end, what we have is really a very big growth on the risk that we are facing. And we also talked already about the GSMR and the ATCS protocol. So it's an example because we can find the same also, for example, in the metros with the CBTC systems and or in the US with the positive train control. So the trend in the industry is really to move toward automation and wireless interconnectivity, because in the end we are talking about the networks that are very spread geographically. We also need to enforce the interoperability and being able to have trains that are going from one country to another country. So those are the systems that are going to be used in the end to tell the driver or to tell the train what is the speed they can have in a specific section of the track, or if they need to stop because there is another train already occupying this section of the track. So you can feel what is the sensibility of these signaling systems, because in the end, if you play around, if you as an attacker are able to vulnerate those protocols and those systems, you really can cause a collision of trains or a derailment because you can tell the train that it can be much faster than it should be in a given section. So it's very critical from safety perspective, and it's obsolete protocols. So we have seen before what are the timelines, what is the expectation to be replaced. In fact, this GSFR, it's a vulnerable protocol. It's demonstrated in theory. We are lucky that the quantity of data that it's transmitted is rather small between the train and the infrastructure, so there is no practical attack. There is a theoretical attack. If it was a bigger volume of data, it could happen, but as the volume of data is small, it's not enough really to do the cryptographic attack to make it happen. But in theory, it's vulnerable, and being vulnerable means that someone will be able to send a packet impersonating the authority to say to a given train that you can go to this speed or you don't need to stop because there is no train, even if there is one train. So again, we are lucky that it's not a practical attack, but it could have been. The cost of replacing those systems is just impossible. You cannot change those systems from one day to another. We have seen what are the days. No, we are targeting 2035 to start doing the replacement. Or to have the first operative ones. And there is always a joke about the name also of the future ready protocol, because it's always true. It's always future ready, never present. Anyway, I said nothing happened in the past. It was some attacks, something in Poland, for example, in 2008 with Ateneyer playing with the tram of the city that in the end get derailed, but it was not really cyber. It was more because the systems were very insecure, and just with the wireless communication was possible to change the switches of the track, and it was very local. But nowadays we are seeing more and more incidents really happening on the rail industry. This is from 2 weeks ago, I believe, 3 weeks, I'm not sure now. But it was a cyber attack disrupting the train services on Ukraine, for example. So this is now it's a reality. We cannot really say that it's not happening anymore. We have other examples. This volcan leakage. This happened like 2 years ago, I believe, or 3 years ago. Vulcan was what's called in English? A defense company, working for a contractor working for the Russian government. It's a military contractor, but they are very specialized and very strong on cyber offensive capabilities. And someone from inside of the organization leaked documentation from this contractor. And inside of these papers that were leaked, it was many reference to a training program to program the operators, the hackers, if you want, of this contractor on how to attack specifically rail systems. So it was mentioned on specific scenarios like causing failures on level crossing systems, being able to do unauthorized track switch movements, or even playing with the train speed. So what happened here is that in the papers there is reference to this training, but the training content itself, it was not leakage. So we cannot know exactly to which specific systems and how realistic were the scenarios. But anyway, what it's clear is that there are countries, and I'm sure Russia is not the only one, that it's training people on how to attack rail. And it makes sense because rail has been always a geopolitical strategic asset. And now if you can attack them in an easier way and remoter way, you will take the advantage of doing that. So I'm sure that there is many more threat actors that are already doing that. And if we compare rail systems with other industrial systems, because we always say rail is different when we work at the rail, and it's true because it has some very specific differences that bring constraints on how you can implement cybersecurity on the sector. One is that trains, you can see a train, a modern train like a data center. In the end, you have computers inside, you have network, you have connectivity there. But differently than other data centers, it's moving, right? It's moving pretty fast sometimes. And it can be moving even from country to country. So that means that even from a regulation perspective, this has an impact, right? You need to be compliant with the regulations or the laws of the different countries where you are circulating. In the end, it's a museum. I mean, a train can be having a life cycle of 30 years, 35 years, 40 years in some cases. So that means that you can find there some technology from the 90s, which before of internet or 95. So it's bringing cybersecurity to those systems. Usually, it's very difficult. Also because of the hardware constraints, the capability of those systems to be updated can bring some strong constraints. But if we mess up with this, the impact can be very big, as we said before. In the end, we are talking about the safety potential impacts. And as Pierre said before, it's a system of systems. So we have a huge supply chain ecosystem on rail. We have tens of thousands of providers for a single train, which also brings a lot of complexity on how to bring cybersecurity, because you need cybersecurity to be provided from the bottom, from the component level, to be able to have the full system, integrated system secure at the end. This Pierre already presented, so just to as a reminder that it's a complex system of systems. We have many layers. We have also private and public collaboration that is needed there. When we need to protect the rail, we need to protect very different systems. We need to protect the stations, the trackside systems, the tunnels and ventilation systems, for example, as well, the OCCs, the control centers, the depots where the maintenance is happening, and then the trains itself. So also we have a variety of systems that needs to be protected. I will skip that just to say that there are some specific protocols for safety that rely on not so secure mechanisms to ensure their integrity, and that was okay when you only consider things that can be wrong because of the random events. But if you are dealing with attackers and a human being trying to attack the system, this is not working anymore. So a lot of times there are some difficult communication between safety engineers and cybersecurity engineers because we don't speak the same language all the time. Very complex systems also, because each of these boxes is a system, and inside of these boxes you will have many subsystems. So again, it's a very wide ecosystem with many technologies interacting. As I'm running late, I will not go on the details here, but you will have the slides afterwards. Also, if we speak about the train, we face very specific challenges. Typically we have a lot of, as I said before, it's a museum, so a lot of legacy systems in there with a lot of constraints on how to bring the cybersecurity. So a couple of concrete examples. This picture is taken from a train here in Germany in 2022, and you see what is the system. Probably it's only on the human machine interface, or the driver machine interface, but still, I'm sure there is vulnerabilities on that system. But it can be even worse because this is from Deutsche Bahn. There is an advertisement of looking for some system administrations that needs to be capable to manage MS-DOS and Windows 3. Good luck also to find today people that is able to manage that. But why they are looking for that? Because they are still using it.
Not necessary to look for that. You can let doing AI this part. You don't need human anymore.
Yeah, probably is the way to go. And just, I will not have the time to go on a lot of details, but just to give you a bit of a sense of what are some challenges that we are facing here. There is regulations for the operators and for the products that are coming on terms of cybersecurity. So there is two for operators, the CRA, the Cyber Resilience Act for products, that needs to coexist with the regulation that was already here for safety. So we have the directive for safety for the operators, and we have the interoperability that you mentioned before for the products. And this needs to coexist. But the issue that we have is that there are some conflicts even from a philosophical perspective, because the safety regulation tries to avoid change. So you get an authorization to run this train as far as you don't change it, right? And now came the cybersecurity people saying that you need to patch those trains very often. So there is still this conflict that needs to be, it's not clear how it will be really solved in a practical way without having the manufacturers or the operators having to do a re-homologation every time that there is a vulnerability on a system. And then we have the CRA, specifically the Cyber Resilience Act, that for the ones that are not familiar with it, it will be needed to be fulfilled to have the CA seal, so to sell anything in the European Union, and it will affect also trains and rail system in general. The issue, or one of the issues, there are many, but one of the issues of this regulation is that maybe we have a fleet of trains that were started to be developed before that it was approved, and now it's been delivered until 2035, because this is the way that the train works. You maybe do 5 or 10 trains every year. You cannot do 80 trains at the same time, because it's very long and costly process. So once the CRA will be enforced, how this will work is not clear at all for the industry. It's very complex, because you cannot just change the trains. You have a fleet of 80 trains, they need to be the same train. But you are delivering already 20 trains without being compliant with the CRA. What are you going to do with the rest? You cannot change them. And even if you change them, it will be an issue for the authorities of the countries that needs to approve those trains, because they will not have capacity to reassess all those trains. They are dimensioned to assess the new projects, not to look at the ones that are already assessed some years ago. So many discussions from the whole industry, operators, infrastructure managers, and the manufacturers with the European Union to try to figure out how this is going to work, but still no clarity at all. And I'm finishing already. Some main challenges that the rail industry is facing in terms of cybersecurity. One is very difficult to get visibility on those complex and interconnected systems for the operators, because there are many players, there are many manufacturers, and for them it's a lot of times a black box. Availability needs to be always ensured, so you need to bring any cybersecurity control in a way that you ensure you are not going to stop the train. And this is difficult because trains are designed to stop. So if something happens to a train, it will stop. It's not so easy a lot of times to protect them without making them to stop. We we already talked about that it's a highly regulated ecosystem, so that also brings constraints, and there is a big gap in skills. It's very difficult to find rail professionals, it's very difficult to find cybersecurity professionals, but good luck to find rail cybersecurity experts nowadays. And this is it. I think more or less in time.
Thank you very much.